Myself Dr. Varun. I am working as an assistant professor in the Department of Cardiac Anesthesia. My topic for today is ECMO physiology. ECMO stands for extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. So ECMO is a form of extracorporeal life support where external artificial circulator carries venous blood from patient to a gas exchange device, that is oxygenator, where blood becomes enriched with oxygen and has carbon dioxide removed, and this blood then re-enters the patient's circulation through central vein or artery. So pump acts as a heart and the oxygenator acts as a lungs. So coming to the types of ECMO. So ECMO can be categorized according to the circuit used, like veno-arterial ECMO or veno-venous ECMO. This veno-arterial ECMO provides both gas exchange and circulatory support in case of heart and lung failure, and in veno-venous ECMO this allows gas exchange only in case of isolated lung failure. So coming to the veno-arterial ECMO, this can be used to provide circulatory support or a combination of pulmonary and circulatory support. This VA ECMO circuit consists of venous drainage to a centrifugal pump in series with a membrane oxygenator and return of oxygenated blood to the arterial circulation to maintain end organ perfusion. So now coming to the like in this diagram, you can see on the left side there is a drainage cannula which drains the venous blood. It goes to the centrifugal pump, then it goes to the oxygenator, it gets enriched with the oxygen and CO2 is removed, and then it is returned to the through a return cannula into the femoral artery. So this is a basic diagram. Now coming to the principle of ECMO, as you can see, when the blood comes this through a drainage cannula, it comes to the pump and then it goes to the oxygenator. There is a sweep gas and then there is an exchange of gases down the diffusion gradient, and then after oxygen enrichment and CO2 removal, then this oxygenated blood is delivered back to the patient. This VA ECMO can be used as a support during recovery of native cardiac function, or as a recovery in patient with little hope of cardiac recovery, or as a bridge to mechanical ventricular assist device or cardiac transplant. So this can be used during as a recovery, during as a bridge, or as a support. What are the indications for veno-arterial ECMO? In case of pulmonary embolism, myocardial infarction, myocarditis, post-cardiotomy cardiac failure, for heart transplantation, acute and chronic heart failure, cardiac arrest, in case of ARDS, and in case of refractory ventricular arrhythmia, cardiac trauma, acute anaphylaxis, or in cardiac support for percutaneous cardiac procedure. What are the contraindications to VA ECMO? In case of disseminated malignancy, in advanced age, severe brain injury, unwitnessed arrest, severe AR, or artery dissection, or contraindication to anticoagulation. This VA ECMO can be used at low rate 2 to 3 liter per minute to provide partial assistance, or at high rate of 4 to 6 liter per minute to totally replace the patient cardiac output. All gas exchange is delivered directly to the arterial circulation, so PO2 level of 400 to 500 mm mercury can be achieved. Now coming to the cannulation for VA ECMO, central cannulation is used in patients failing to wean from CPV after cardiotomy. Access is obtained by direct cannulation of the RA and aorta, and ability to place the large diameter cannula and direct insertion of LV drain catheter, that is LV vent, eliminate, and the benefit is VA ECMO that it eliminates the risk of limb ischemia. As you can see in this diagram, so drainage cannula on the lower side, you can see through drainage cannula blood goes to the pump, then to the oxygenator, and through the return cannula into the ascending aorta, as you can see in this diagram. Now coming to the peripheral cannulation, this includes one or more venous drainage catheter and outflow cannula inserted into the arterial system. Leg ischemia can result from femoral artery cannulation. Therefore, distal small cannula should be placed and connected to the outflow circuit. This is an example of peripheral cannulation. You can see drainage cannula into the vein, peripheral vein, and this is return cannula into the peripheral femoral artery. As we are talking about, to prevent the limb ischemia, a distal cannula can be placed to prevent the limb ischemia. During VA ECMO, blood returns to the left ventricle through the sinus venosus, Thebesian vessels, and bronchial circulation despite of adequate venous cannula access. This blood either should be ejected through the aortic wall, or it can be through LV vent, it can be drained. Now coming to the initiation of veno-arterial ECMO. After cannulation, the ECMO circuit flows are increased to the target range based on the clinical parameter, including arterial blood pressure, oxygen saturation of the venous return to the circuit, and measures of global ischemia like serum lactate. Now coming to the initial settings and goals after the implementation of veno-arterial ECMO. So circuit flow can be set at more than equal to 2 liter per minute per meter square. Sweep gas flow equal to the blood flow. Then coming to the FiO2 of 100%, inlet pressure of centrifugal pump more than equal to 100 mm mercury. Oxygen saturation of outflow cannula 100%, oxygen saturation of inflow cannula of more than 65%, and arterial oxygen saturation more than 95%, mixed venous oxygen saturation more than 65%, and coming to the PO2 35 to 45, pH of 7.35 to 7.45, mean arterial pressure of 60 to 90 mm mercury, and maintain the hematocrit of in the range of 30 to 40%, and achieve the APTT of 1.5 to 2 times the normal, and platelet count of more than 1 lakh per millimeter cube. So these are target. Maintain the vascular resistance with vasopressors to maintain arterial blood pressure in patients with adequate volume of blood flow with persistent hypertension. In some cases, increase in pump speed may not increase the flow, and drainage line chatter may indicate insufficient venous return volume or catheter malposition. Sweep flow should be set to match arterial flow and then adjusted based on the system arterial partial pressure of CO2 and pH. Ventilators should be managed with lung protective strategies. Now coming to the monitoring. Clinical parameters, biochemical and laboratory parameters, radiological monitoring and circuit monitoring. These are subheadings. So coming to the clinical parameters, like vital parameters like ECG rhythm, pulse rate, blood pressure, temperature and respiratory rate, arterial and venous saturation, specifically the mixed venous saturation, and then there is a role of serial echocardiography, and right hand saturation gives a hint regarding the coronary perfusion. And hematological parameters like complete blood count, hematocrit in the range of 35 to 40%. If possible, use of NIRS, then monitoring of end-tidal CO2, maintain sugar level in the range of 80 to 140 mg per deciliter, and ABG and RBS to be done every 4 to 6 hours, then vascular and neurological status, and urine output and urine color. Now coming to the coagulation monitoring. So pre-ECMO ACT of around 300 seconds. On ECMO, check ACT too early till the ACT drops to 200 seconds and maintain with ACT of around 160 to 200 seconds. ACT is to be repeated every 6 to 8 hours. Beyond 24 hours, APTT is used to guide the heparin therapy, and it is done 4 times per day. APTT in the target range of 60 to 70 seconds. Now coming to the circuit monitoring. Look for the circuit blood flow, circuit gas flow, circuit pressure, circuit integrity, and these variables should be monitored continuously. Now what are the factors affecting circuit blood flow? Increased blood flow either due to increased revolution per minute or decreased resistance or increased preload, and decreased blood flow may be due to decreased revolution per minute or increased resistance or decreased preload. Now coming to the pump flow rate. In case of veno-venous, it has to be 2/3 of patient cardiac output, minimum 50% of patient cardiac output, oxygen flow rate twice the ECMO flow rate, and avoid increasing fluid to maintain the pump flow, as this may decrease the respiratory function. Lowest arterial oxygen saturation of 85 to 90% or PO2 of 55 to 60 mm mercury. Flow rate in case of veno-arterial ECMO, flow rate of 2.1 to 2.4 liter per minute per meter square, and ECMO flow less than 2 liter for long period should be avoided to prevent clots in the circuit. Now coming to the circuit pressure. Now pre-pump pressure, too much negative pressure results in hemolysis, cavitation, endothelial damage of right atrium, and vena cava. Reasons may be hypovolemia, improper catheter placement, or inadequate cannula size. Now coming to the basic ECMO circuit. In this diagram, on the right side, if you see, there is a drainage cannula, then it comes to the pump, and after the pump it goes to the membrane lung. So we have to monitor the pre-membrane pressure and the post-membrane pressure, and through this we can calculate the transmembrane pressure. So target should be pre-membrane pressure of less than 300 mm mercury, transmembrane gradient of less than 50 mm mercury. If the transmembrane pressure gradient is more than 150 mm mercury or oxygenator outflow PO2 is less than 150 mm mercury, then consider circuit change. Now coming to the circuit integrity. Check for clot, air and leak. Pump is checked for abnormal noise or crack. Indication for changing the pump head are development of hemolysis, hematuria and increased plasma-free hemoglobin, and large thrombus formation within the pump head. Now coming to the respiratory management. Once the adequate ECMO flow have been established and the patient oxygenation has improved, the level of ventilatory support is reduced. So typical ventilatory goals would be fraction of inspired oxygen less than 70%, PEEP inspiratory pressure of less than 35 centimeter water, positive and expiratory pressure less than 15 centimeter water, and respiratory rate of less than 10 beats per minute. Now coming to the weaning. Daily clinical, hemodynamic and echo evaluation of cardiac function should guide the strategy and timing of weaning from ECMO. Weaning is not commenced until after cardiac rest for at least 24 to 48 hours to facilitate the recovery. Arterial monitor should show pulsatility on low dose of anaerobe and mean arterial pressure of at least 60 mm mercury. So metabolic disturbance should be corrected. Lung function should be adequate to increase the chance of successful weaning. If cardiac function has recovered but the lung function remains compromised, then conversion to VV ECMO should be considered. Pump flow are systematically decreased over a period of hours until the echocardiographic and hemodynamic guidance. As circuit flow decreases in increments of 0.5 to 1 liter per minute, preload increases and afterload decreases, which facilitates the cardiac ejection. If hemodynamic parameters are met and the organ and limb perfusion are satisfactory, then the patient is evaluated on 1 liter per minute flow for up to 1 hour before decannulation. During this low flow period, extra heparin should be given to prevent pump thrombosis. So coming to the complications, it can be mechanical causes, systemic causes, bleeding, thromboembolism, heparin-induced thrombocytopenia, or specific complications of VA ECMO or neurological complications. So coming to the mechanical causes, they can be clots in the circuit, which is the most common oxygenator, then cannula problems, oxygenator failure, air in the circuit. Causes for poor venous return from patient to the ECMO circuit includes hypovolemia, pneumothorax, poor catheter position, small venous catheter diameter, excess catheter length, and kinking of tubing. Coming to the systemic causes, cardiovascular, it can be hemodynamic instability, renal failure, or neurological damage, or intracranial hemorrhage, which is the most common. Bleeding, it occurs in 30 to 40% of patients on ECMO due to continuous heparin infusion and platelet dysfunction. Coming to the treatment, in hemolysis causes clot in the circuit or near cannula orifice, excess return insufficiency or obstruction, overspinning of pump speed. Signs for hemolysis are red or dark brown urine, high potassium ion, renal failure, jaundice, excess line shaking due to changes in pressure. Coming to the management, for thromboembolism, it is more common with VA ECMO than VV ECMO as infusion is into the systemic circulation. Sudden change in pressure gradient indicates thrombus formation. Now coming to the cannulation related, vessel perforation with hemorrhage, arterial dissection, bleeding, or distal ischemia in VA ECMO. So treatment, as we have already discussed, inserting a distal perfusion cannula in the femoral artery distal to the ECMO cannula. This can be prevented. Now coming to the heparin-induced thrombocytopenia. When HIT is proven, heparin infusion should be replaced by non-heparin anticoagulant like argatroban, which is a synthetic direct thrombin inhibitor, can be used as an alternative anticoagulation during ECMO. Now coming to the veno-venous ECMO. It provides support for the severe respiratory failure when no major cardiac dysfunction occurs. Now coming to the VV ECMO, it improves the patient oxygenation by reducing the amount of blood that passes through the lung without being oxygenated, and in addition removes the CO2 from the patient blood. This allows level of ventilatory support to be reduced, which reduces the ventilator-induced lung injury. Now coming to the indication, patient with life-threatening but potentially reversible respiratory failure who otherwise do not have contraindication to extracorporeal life support. The Murray score played a key role in determining the need for ECMO support in the CESAR trial. CO2 retention in mechanically ventilated patient despite a high plateau pressure, and in patient with acute respiratory failure who are unresponsive to optimum care. Now coming to the Murray score, these are the parameters which are considered, like consolidation on chest X-ray, number of quadrants, coming to the level of PEEP, and ratio of PO2 and FiO2, and coming to the compliance. So as the score progresses, you can see as the severity increases, the score increases. So if the Murray score is more than 3, then these were the key criteria for the patient enrollment in addition to the uncompensated hypocapnia with a pH lower than 7.2 in CESAR trial. Now coming to the contraindications. For VV ECMO, aside from the inability to anticoagulate for ECMO, there are no absolute contraindication. In relative contraindication, there is high pressure ventilation, high FiO2 requirement, non-recoverable conditions like major CNS bleeding or trauma, and limited vascular access. Now coming to the cannulation strategy for VV ECMO. This VV ECMO cannula configuration should maximize the flow and reduce the recirculation. So this recirculation is mainly seen in VV ECMO. So to maximize the flow, this can be taken of care by placement of long multi-port more than 50 cm 23 to 29 French drainage cannula in the inferior vena cava. And for recirculation, this can be reduced by returning oxygenated blood directly to the RA and directed flow towards the tricuspid wall. The efficiency of oxygenation by ECMO circuit depends upon the pump flow relative to the patient cardiac output. The oxygenation should increase with increasing ECMO flow rate. If this does not occur, recirculation of blood between the inflow and outflow cannula should be suspected. Now, as in this diagram you can see, so you can see in the IVC there is a drainage cannula and return cannula is in the SVC. So if the target should be to return cannula, the blood from the return cannula should be directed towards the tricuspid wall. If suppose this blood from the return cannula enters into the drainage cannula without entering into the systemic circulation, then this results in recirculation because this blood is not participating in the systemic oxygenation. So this is the ideal location of the cannula. The return cannula should be placed in the RA and towards the tricuspid wall, and this should not be very closely placed to each other, the drainage and the return cannula. So now coming to the common VV ECMO cannulation options. So first is the bicaval cannulation. You can see two cannula in the SVC and IVC, and second option is B option, that is the bilateral femoral cannulation into both the veins, femoral veins, and the third is single dual lumen catheter. As you can see, it can be placed in the right IJV, and there are two lumen in this. So coming to the cannulation options, we will discuss this one by one. Femoral option, venous drainage is achieved by femorally introduced cannula. The cannula tip is placed 5 to 2 cm below the IVC RA junction, and the return occurs through a long cannula inserted into the contralateral femoral vein and advance until its tip lies in the RA directed towards the tricuspid wall. Now coming to the femoral arterial option, venous drainage is achieved through a femorally inserted cannula placed 5 to 10 cm below the RA IVC junction, and oxygenated blood is returned through a 20 cm long 17 to 19 French cannula placed in the right IJV at the SVC RA junction. Now coming to the single cannula option. So advances in cannula design have led to the creation of dual lumen 27 and 31 French catheter for exclusive right internal jugular vein placement. The cannula is advanced until the tip lies in the mid IVC, just distal to the hepatic vein, and drainage occurs from SVC and IVC. The return lumen opens 10 cm from the tip of cannula, and it is designed to return blood back to the RA. Imaging during the insertion is commonly assisted by transesophageal echocardiography and fluoroscopy, and positioning is very important. If the distal tip or the return jets are not accurately placed, then low flow and significant recirculation can occur. So as you already told, that return jet is ideally placed towards the tricuspid wall. Again, in this picture we can see the single cannula dual lumen veno-venous cannula, and you can see it is placed such a way that the blood is directed towards the tricuspid wall. Advantages of this single this double lumen cannula are like technical simplicity with one catheter and low rates of recirculation if it is appropriately positioned, easy use of prone position, easy aeromedical transport, and the ability to mobilize and ambulate the patient with long duration of extracorporeal life support. This is also called as working ECMO. Disadvantage of this technique includes limited range of catheter size, need for expert TE or fluoroscopic guidance during the insertion, and instability of catheter in the neck, and the potential for several venous congestion with malposition. You can see in this is the example of single lumen like cannula. And coming to the VV ECMO and CO2, VV ECMO is more efficient at removing the CO2 from the blood than delivering the oxygen. The amount of CO2 removal depends on the ECMO flow rate relative to the patient cardiac output, approximately 2/3 of patient cardiac output, and also depends on oxygen flow rate, that is sweep gas to the oxygenator. This should be twice the ECMO flow rate. So now coming to the VV ECMO and oxygen. Arterial oxygen is determined by the relationship between ECMO pump flow and the patient cardiac output. If the pump flow is low then compared to the cardiac output, then the arterial oxygen will be low, and increasing the ECMO pump flow will increase the oxygen in the mixed venous circulation and increase the arterial O2. Providing the ECMO pump flow equal to the 66% of patient cardiac output will achieve the saturation of more than 90%. Common for patients on VV ECMO to have PO2 in the range of 55 to 90 mm mercury. So now coming to the initial management for VV ECMO. After the cannulation and heparinization, ECMO is commenced by unclamping the circuit and slowly increasing the flow to the target range. For VV ECMO, the parameters which are used to determine the pump flow are arterial oxygen saturation and the oxygen saturation blood in the VV ECMO drainage cannula. For ideal oxygenation VV ECMO, the pump flow should be 60% or more of the calculated cardiac output with an arterial saturation goal of 88% or greater and sweep gas rate that produces PaCO2 between 30 to 40 mm mercury. The need for pressure, inotrope, vasodilator and volume replacement does not change. Now coming to the ventilator setting for VV ECMO, the typical rest setting consists of pressure controlled ventilation with low respiratory rate of 5 to 10 per minute, very low tidal volume 4 to 6 ml per kg, lower FiO2, peak inspiratory pressure no higher than 25 cm water and PEEP of 10 to 15 cm water. Progressive tapered sedation plan should be instituted for all the VV ECMO patients with moderate to heavy sedation for the first 24 hours. Goal is minimum to no sedation to accompany plan to extubate or perform tracheostomy within 3 to 5 days of VV ECMO commencement. Protocols for management of temperature, blood volume and nutrition. Infection prevention, patient position and management of bleeding. For VV ECMO patient with primary goal of CO2 removal like status asthma or COPD exacerbation, goal should be gradual reduction in blood CO2 to avoid acid base and neurological complication. Recommendation from also suggest arterial PCO2 reduction rate of 20 mm mercury per hour. So similar to CPB, ECMO creates significant alteration in the drug pharmacokinetics that require dose adjustment. So this has to be taken into mind while providing the adequate sedation. The increased volume distribution, decreased drug elimination and sequestration of drug in the ECMO circuit contributes to the altered pharmacokinetics. So now coming to the weaning from VV ECMO. Weaning from ECMO is a complex process. For most of the patients, recovery can take 1 to 3 weeks. Possibility for recovery or discontinuation due to futility should be explained to the family before ECMO institution. Patients should be watched for signs of potential irreversibility like fluid overload, which is reflected to diuresis and worsening pulmonary hypertension. VV ECMO patient with improving chest X-ray, improving lung compliance, reduced airway resistance, reduced extravascular lung fluid and improving oxygen saturation. With reduced mixed venous oxygen saturation, this indicates potential for weaning. According to the ELSO guidelines, after the native lung is supporting 50 to 80% of gas exchange, ECMO weaning can be actively considered. In terms of improved gas exchange, most centers contemplate weaning from VV ECMO when the PaCO2 and PO2 are acceptable on moderate ventilator support, that is FiO2 of less than equal to 50%, PEEP of 10 cm water, peak inspiratory pressure of 25 to 30 and ventilatory rate of 10 to 16 breaths per minute. So the duration for VV ECMO are not established. Weaning time can be 1 to 6 hours or longer, and the key monitoring issue includes hemodynamic stability, that is standard parameters including TE to monitor cardiac function with or without inotropes and vasopressors. Serial ABG measurements and assessment of respiratory mechanics, particularly if the patient is on spontaneous assisted ventilation. If the patient meets all criteria, circuit flows are reduced to 0, cannula are clamped and the decannulation takes place. Now coming to the anticoagulation for ECMO. Contact of the blood with non-endothelial surface of ECMO circuit activates the coagulation cascade to form clots within the circuit. Clots can disrupt the function of the membrane oxygenator, inhibit the pump function and embolize to the vital organs. Maintenance of ECMO circuit for prolonged period requires anticoagulant to prevent thrombosis. Heparin infusion is the most commonly used anticoagulant in patients without contraindication. So now, what are the factors which affect anticoagulation level needed to prevent thrombosis? So these are common factors like circuit flow rate, platelet count, bleeding, hypothermia, antiplatelet agents, thrombophilic conditions like cancer and heparin-induced thrombocytopenia. Coming to the complications of VV ECMO, as in this table you can see, oxygenator failure is the most common complication with a incidence of 10.2% and cannula site bleeding comes 13.9%, and then renal failure requiring dialysis with a incidence of 10.4%. Coming to the hypoxia. So pump flow is more than 2/3 of patient cardiac output, 100% oxygen to the oxygenator, and oxygenator outflow PO2 is more than 150 millimeter mercury. So in case of hypoxia, increase the pump flow, increase the ventilation, cool the patient to 35 degree, administration muscle relaxant, correct anemia, second access line to reduce shunt. Hypercarbia, check pump flow is more than 2/3 of cardiac output, oxygen flow to the oxygenator twice the pump flow rate. Management of hypercarbia, increase the pump flow rate, increase the ventilation, cool the patient to 35 degrees Celsius, and administration of muscle relaxants. Coming to the recirculation, access and return canula, if they are too close, they can cause recirculation blood, so pump flow may not improve oxygenation. So check pre-membrane PO2 less than 50 millimeter mercury. Management of recirculation is by repositioning of access line. Thank you.